Welcome to the Harmony Hall of Friends podcast. Neil Brand, welcome to Harmony Hall of Friends podcast.
Thank you.
Well, great to see you and great to have you on the show. So, composer, musician, broadcaster, presenter, dramatist, author, actor, silent film accompanist. Have I missed anything out?
Yeah, gardening and washing done, depending how work's going at the moment.
You're one of the world's foremost experts on the history of silent movies. You're known throughout the world for your amazing improvised piano accompaniments to silent film. Performed at international film festivals, written the music for over 100 films. I mean, it's an incredible CV. But before we dive into that, can I just ask a question? For those of us, or the people watching this, who don't really know anything about silent film, can you just give us a brief history of that and maybe some of the kind of inventors or pioneers of the genre?
So the very first were 1895. The Lumiere brothers in France came up with this idea of being able to take moving pictures by having a series of still pictures which could run in front of a lens and would then be printed onto film stock. And the following years, the next 35 years, were the most extraordinary developments in silent film, not just in the technology that was possible, but the storytelling got better as well. As they realized what was possible with early film, they began to shape those stories to make them cinematic, and that's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because after a while, you begin to get films which use cinema to tell stories. So not just what the intertitles might be saying in terms of the story, but how cinema itself shapes the way we look at people.
Could you give me three or one or two, three, whatever films that you think, if you've never seen a silent movie, you have to see these?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I think anything really by Buster Keaton is a really good way in. But for me, his very best film is a movie called The General, set in the American Civil War, where somebody steals his train and he has to go off and try and get it back. But the people who stole his train are the army from the other side, and they're using the train to try and destroy the line.
Yeah.
I'd also really recommend, some of the later movies have got such an edge to them in the same way as we would expect our films to. And there's a wonderful Hitchcock movie which he actually made both as a silent film and a sound film called Blackmail. And I can also recommend really sexy comedies by an actress called Clara Bow. And if you get a chance to see a movie called It by Clara Bow.
That's great. Thanks for those recommendations. I'm going to watch them this evening, I think.
That's my man.
But what were your early inspirations and influences? Where did all this come from?
Well, I should probably explain, I never wanted to be a silent film pianist. It was never a plan. My earliest inspirations, I think without a doubt, were film music. I loved film music right from the start. And I can remember the earliest films I saw. So I did learn the piano. I can't honestly say that I was hooked on my classical piano world because I gave it up when I was 16 and discovered drama rather than music and went to university and studied drama for 3 years.
Yeah.
But I came away as a musician because I think I had always been able to play the piano by ear. So my drama department would say, well, okay, you can, as you know about music, at least know more about music than anybody else does here, you can MD the show, but that means you can have a really good part in the next play. So that's what I did. I had to learn to MD with terrible sight reading and only really the barest idea of how something should work. But it was a very, very good, that really was dropping me into the deep end of a job. And I was at university, I think I began to properly listen to music that made a difference to me.
It'd be great to know from your perspective what you see the role of the piano is in silent movies. How do you have these ideas in your head?
I'm not the kind of composer who can just sit down with a blank sheet of paper and come up with a piano concerto or a symphony, or even an aria. I need a context.
Yeah.
But I do love telling stories with film. That's where it gets really interesting for me. And so that's why I've done so much that has matched drama to music. A piano player for silent film, in my mind, has got one job, which is to create a bridge between the age of the film and the age of the audience watching it. They've got to be able to understand what's happening because they're hearing music that they do understand. So that's my job as I see it. The bigger thing for me as a piano player is I sit down and I really do improvise the whole thing. And the point of improvising is something actually that I always use Paul Merton.
And so I'm just thinking there's going to be people out there that are really excited about the idea of being a silent movie accompanist, even if it's just at home playing along with a Buster Keaton video. What kind of skill set do you need? Because when you talk about improvisations, we're not just talking about jazz, are we? We're talking about putting some mood to what you see on the film. So that needs a whole range of genres, a whole range of experience, of knowledge, which you then put into the film.
Up to a point. I teach a course at the Royal Academy for Joanna McGregor on improvising for silent film. And this is for her postgraduate piano students. And the thing that I do with them, and this is the only way I can teach it really, is by saying, look, I'm not going to teach you to improvise. I'm assuming you can come up with some music off the top of your head. What I am going to try and do is show you a piece of film and say to you, this is what it feels like it needs. Now, what are you going to bring to it? And I'll go into what the mood is, what the emotion is, what's happening in the story, and then just let people lower the bucket into that well of whatever's down there. And sometimes it's astonishing. They just get it.
You've collaborated with big orchestras, particularly the BBC Symphony Orchestra, which is very different, isn't it, to working on your own? You've got a big machine, maybe 60 to 80 players. So can you talk us how different that is?
I have never been able to sort of sit down in front of a film knowing I've got to score it for orchestra, feeling the same as I would do if I was sitting at a piano. If I was sitting at a piano and about to play this film for a bunch of people, I would just be so relaxed. I'd be looking forward to it. I'd be trying out stuff left, right, and centre, be experimental, not for the orchestra, because what I have to do is a hell of a lot harder, which is to try to make what I think might possibly be the definitive score for this film. And that's a big ask. It's a big ask of me, because I know how good and how not good I am. I know where my limitations are.
No, because actually I was going to ask you about, you sound optimistic for the future. Live music is always, it feels like it's all under threat, always under threat, but it keeps going and builds new audiences. And now with the digital age and AI, are you optimistic for your role as, or people's role if they're going to go into
I am very optimistic about that, yes. And it's not just me burying my head in the sand. There's two things I feel about. Well, one thing I feel very strongly about with AI is that AI cannot include the butterfly effect. AI cannot be creative because it can't do it. It can only reproduce. It can only use what's already there.
Last question, and I don't know if this is a difficult question or not really. I'm just interested to know was there a single piece of advice or some advice that you were given when you were starting out in your career? And if not necessarily that, can you offer any advice to young musicians, that might be interested in being a professional musician?
I do think this is something which is, because my son's 16, so he's just done his GCSE, so he's been through the beginnings of the senior school world. And he's been pushed to try and find something he wants to be as a career. And what he's done, which I've been very proud of, really, is that he has decided to go for the stuff he's enjoyed. Now, if you're going to give your life to something, you better be sure it's something you enjoy. Because if it isn't, either you'll stop at some stage, sooner rather than later, hopefully, or worse still, you'll carry on doing it long after it holds anything. And in the current climate, to be absolutely frank, you've probably got as much chance of making it to retirement earning money from music as you have from, let's say, estate agency. You know, the plain fact of the matter is they're always going to need artists. They're always going to need creative people. Most creative people I know couldn't do anything else anyway because they have to create.
Yeah.
But if I have any real advice for someone who's young, who's into music, loves it, I would say nurture it. And who knows, it may be a career. Don't jump too soon. I was very pleased also that Charlie decided he doesn't want to be a performer at 18. I think you've got to have some life experience behind you.
Yeah.
But why not? Why not push it through? Why not find out what's there? And then just maybe you have got what is needed to be a musician, a creative, a writer, an actor, whatever it is, for the rest of your life, rather than this day age.
Yeah, that's really great advice. So Neil Brand, thank you so much for joining us on Hall of Friends podcast today.
Cheers, Paul. All the very best.